in all of my work, I do have kind of an educational desire, even though in a film like From This Day Forward, it's kind of buried, because it's really like a character-driven piece, and I'm trying to change people's perception of trans people through like getting to know somebody very deeply. So this is less of a, the film isn't, how should I say it? It's not like an issue-driven doc, really. It's just a personal portrait of somebody, but I hope that it has the same effect as an issue-driven doc.
Please join me in welcoming Sharon Shattuck. So I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you, so much for sharing this film. Incredibly powerful, obviously very personal. I imagine it wasn't, an easy assignment on some level.
It started out, I made this film from a place where I was accepting, but I wasn't understanding really who Trish was. As an adult, I was like, okay, I have a transgender parent. I'm just starting to talk about it. I'm not necessarily comfortable yet. But like, what does that mean? Like, I didn't understand her experience really, and that's why I started making the movie. And I was asking these questions that were really personal, and like a lot of them, some of them are in the film where I was like, I don't even want to ask this. Like specifically, do my parents still sleep together? And did not want to ask that. But I was talking with people who were helping me to make the film, and they were like, this is part of this process of like getting to know your parent on a really deep level as a friend and not just as a parent. A lot of people are curious about what it's like inside a relationship between a transgender person and, their spouse. And I just thought, like, what? Let's show them. And like, it's pretty normal, like whatever normal is. And I don't know, my parents were game and, just let me film them. And I think they thought I was just making a family video, honestly. They didn't really know like where we'd be on a POV and get a New York Times critics pick. I came to film because I wanted to do science stories, and I still do, but I decided to make this very personal film because it was just something that I've always felt like I wanted to tell the story. And so it was weird, like turning off the science and turning on the director and then turning off the director and being a daughter again. And I really relied on my friends, the people who were helping me make the film, because it's really hard to like understand, growing up in a trans, with a trans parent, sometimes you're just like, well, that's obvious. Everybody knows that. And then your friends are like, no, Sharon, nobody has ever heard of that before. So that happened a lot making the movie. Yeah, so the extended family. So that has been a long process. And it's interesting. I don't know if it's like this with other people, but in our family, the women came along first and were like a little bit more like, okay. So my dad's, Trisha's sister, Claudia, was the first person that Trisha told back in the 70s. And then I think Trisha told her mom, Marcia, who's a special thanks at the end. They're both deceased now. But, and then from there, it was kind of like my uncle didn't acknowledge Trisha, called Trish Mike for a really long time. My grandpa was just kind of ignored it, called Trisha Mike, so it took a little while. But towards the end of my grandpa's life, he was using Trisha and she. And my uncle now says Trisha and is actually really proud of the movie. So it's been really cool.
The question was about Trisha's community and friend circle, and I think in general the community around Trish experiencing the transition in a pretty public way.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the community where my parents live is, to this day, very much divided about Trisha and about their relationship. And so there are probably, I'd say about 50% of people are incredibly warm, liberal, not that they go hand in hand, but they're very liberal, they're very warm, they're wonderful, like friendly people who accept Trisha, love her wholeheartedly. And those are the people you see when we're playing music, in the yard. A lot of those people are kind of the core of that community. And then there are also people who literally cross the street to avoid making eye contact or speaking to my parents, both of them. When I first moved up to Northern Michigan, when we moved up there when I was a kid, I thought that nobody knew about Trisha, and I thought I had to keep this big secret, and I was trying to kind of distance myself and be like, oh, who knows who that is, And I realized only as an adult that everybody knew immediately when we moved up there. And I think when I was young, I could sense that, everybody was talking and nobody was talking to us. And I don't know, there was one moment where a friend of mine in high school, I was worried about Trisha picking me up from her house because we were playing. And I kind of said something, and then her mom was just like, Sharon, it's okay. We know. And it was the first time, that anybody had told me. And when I was interviewing BJ, my former boss, I had no idea that, of course she knew, but I just didn't realize. And so I think, one thing I tell people going forward is tell your friends it's okay to talk about it. And, we accept you, we love you. It's really nice to hear that,
So the question was about your mother, and did you intend for her to be as much of a focal point of the film when you started?
I wanted her to be, but my mom actually didn't want to speak on camera for about 2 years. So I started filming in 2011, and I would go home and do several weeks with Trisha. I want to go out to a field and you can do some taekwondo, or let's talk about paintings. And I would do that for, every time I came home, and I kept asking my mom if she would talk to me. And she just said, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't want to be I don't know what to say. I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be in the public. And at some point she actually came to me and said, I could talk now. And I think it was maybe because she was just I deserve to have a voice too. And so I've from the beginning, I was trying to get her in the shots, and she was letting me film her, but she just didn't want to talk to me. And so I just wanted to kind of include her. And I think she's incredibly strong and fascinating and warm. And I don't know, I just admire her a lot. So I thought, to me, she and Trisha are these two poles of the same thing, and they kind of complete each other. And that's what I wanted to get across. Thank you.
Sharon, I want to thank you for joining us today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having me.